Please, I'd like to call to the order of the April 14th meeting of the St. Cloud City Council Board of Adjustment. Welcome. Would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Jesse, would you call the roll, please?
Member Toe, absent. Chair Welty,
Present.
Vice Chair Jondro,
Here.
Member Marshall,
Present.
Member Hartwick,
Here.
Member Douglas,
Here.
Member Gilmer.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum, and this evening, Ms. Douglas will be a voting member of the cases for this evening. Okay? Thank you.
If you would, board members, please turn to the second page of your packet for the minutes on our January 13th meeting. I'll give you a couple moments, and I would ask for a motion for approval.
I make the motion that they be accepted as written.
A second.
Second, it's moved and seconded, the minutes be accepted. All those in favor, please. Aye. Opposed, like sign. 5-0. Thank you. Next, we'll be moving to the two presentations we have for variances tonight. Is Mr. Santos here? Thank you, sir. And Mr. Phoebus? Thank you. Do we need to advise them that we're missing a member short?
We have a full board, as we have 5 voting members, so we're
Got
good.
voting?
Yes,
Okay,
Mr.
we're
Mr.
good.
Chairman. Yes, thank you.
All right. If we could have a staff member step forward
We
and
should-
present case number BOA21-00001, a variance for a pool. Thank you, sir. Would you identify yourself, please?
Good evening. Jesse Anderson, Senior Planner. As mentioned, our first case is BOA 1-00001 for 3250 Loop North. It's a BOA variance request. The request is for a waiver to the side setback requirements for an accessory structure to construct a pool in the backyard. For the background, the zoning is planned unit development. The future land use is low-density residential. And Stevens Plantation PUD Ordinance 2003-68 governs the property, which stipulates a rear and side setback for pools to be 13 feet and a rear and side setback for pool enclosures to be 10 feet. The subject site is listed by the property appraiser to be on a quarter-acre lot with approximate dimensions of 100 feet wide and 120 feet deep. The applicant is requesting a waiver from the rear and side yard setback requirements for an accessory structure in order to construct a pool in their backyard. Again, this is specifically a waiver from ordinance number 2003-68, and the following demonstrates the actual waiver. For instance, the rear setback for the pool is required to be at 13 feet. The proposal is 8 feet for a resulting variance of 5 feet, and the rear setback for the pool enclosure is required to be at 10 feet, with the proposed being at 5 feet, again resulting in another 5-foot waiver. This demonstrates the zoning for the surrounding properties as well as the property in question, which is planned unit development. And this next slide indicates the future land use designation for these properties as well, which is low-density residential. This image here is for the proposed site plan, which demonstrates an 8-foot setback to the water's edge and a 5-foot setback to the deck. This image demonstrates the proposed structure. And finally, the Board of Adjustment shall make findings that the requirements of Section 3.4.2.d.1 A through F have or have not been demonstrated by the applicant. The Board of Adjustment may approve this application, approve with certain conditions or safeguards, or deny this application.
Mr. Santos, do you have anything to add?
Sir, you'll have to come to the microphone,
Yeah, would you
please,
come
and
up here and
state your
identify
name and
yourself?
address, and you can address the board on the microphone, please. Thank you.
Sorry, first time doing this. I apologize. Just that the setbacks that I'm asking.
Sir, please identify yourself, your address, everything.
Oh yeah, my name is Roberto Santos. I'm the resident of the property in question. So the setbacks that I'm asking are similar to the city code, to your city codes and to your city standards. It's just that ordinance that I'm trying to get a variance for, it's only for that pod. There were other pods that actually were successfully changed the ordinance for their pods, where my pod never got to change their ordinance. So that's why I think it's just making the same ordinance that everybody else in St. Cloud has. That's it.
Thank you, sir. You want to stick around for a minute in case any member of the board have any questions for the staff person or Mr. Santos?
Was there any response from neighbors or?
My two neighbors, they were okay with it. They're perfectly fine with it.
I have a question for staff. Can you just clarify what the codes are for the city? I understand this isn't a PUD. Can you just let me know what the setback requirements are in conventional zoning?
Sure. For pool setbacks, they are 3 feet to the water's edge plus the side setback of the principal structure.
Okay.
So it does depend on the
It'll
zoning
depend-
district
Okay,
again.
thank you.
Any other board member? Public comment from any person who's filled out a card saying you want to talk. Okay, we'll close the public session. Anything else from the board?
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I was going to ask that next. Thank you, ma'am. Second?
A second.
If I could, just for the record, Mr. You could elaborate on the motion that you've considered the land development code factors that are required for the approval.
Yes, I've considered the land development codes and meeting the conditions set forth by staff. Section 3.4.2.d, .1, A through F have been met and demonstrated by the applicant.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board?
Second.
Second.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else? Okay, let's vote on it. All those in favor, please.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. 5-0. Thank you.
Passes 5-0, yes, sir.
Next, we have case number BOA 21-00003, variance. Victor Baez. Phoebus, excuse me, full name. Sir, again?
Good evening, Jesse Anderson, Senior Planner. This is for BOA case 21-00003 for 815 Illinois Avenue, a BOA variance request. The request is a waiver from the side yard setback requirements for 3 separate accessory structures. For the background, the zoning is R2, single and 2-family dwelling. The future land use is medium-density residential. For the site, the subject site is listed by the property appraiser to be on a 0.172 acre lot with approximate dimensions of 50 feet wide and 150 feet deep. For the structures, the applicant constructed a handicapped accessible dwelling unit approximately 7 years ago in the rear of the property, and during quarantine, 2 carports were also built on each side of the house. So for the request, the applicant is requesting a variance from the Land Development Code, Article 3, Zoning Regulations, Table 3-4, Agricultural and Residential Requirements, R2 Zoning District for setbacks for the 3 separate accessory structures, for the 2 carports and the accessory dwelling unit. And specifically, the side yard setback for the left north carport would be required of 5 feet. The proposed is 1.5 feet with a 3.5-foot variance. For the side yard setback for the right carport on the southern portion of the property, the requirement is 5 feet. The proposed would be 2.5 feet, and the variance again would be 2.5 feet. Sorry, it would be 2.5 feet separate. And lastly, the side yard setback for the accessory dwelling unit is required to be 5 feet. The proposed is 2.25, resulting in a variance of 2 3/4 feet. This image right here indicates the zoning for the surrounding properties. Again, they are R2, single and two-family dwelling. And for the future land use, the surrounding properties and parcel in question are medium-density residential. This image here depicts the proposed site plan, which shows each of the setbacks that I had mentioned before for each of the 3 separate accessory structures. Finally, the Board of Adjustment shall make findings that the requirements of Section 3.4.2.d.1 A through F have or have not been demonstrated by the applicant. The Board of Adjustment may approve this application, approve with certain conditions or safeguards, or deny this application.
Mr. Phoebus, would you like to step forward, identify yourself, and add anything else?
Hi everyone, my name is Victor Baez, resident of 815 Illinois Avenue. In regards to the building in the back, which is the mom's suite that's handicap accessible, that was built, like he mentioned, 7 years ago, and originally based on the initial survey when the property was built, it was built within the property line, but based on a more recent one conducted, I believe it was in 2018, the property lines ended up shifting, which ended up with the neighbor on our left having to modify and cut from a suite that she had in her property as well. And the property that we had in ours ended up falling within the next door neighbors, and it ended up being having part of it as well cut for it to be within the new survey. And then it so happened that we found out that about those setbacks, but it all ended up happening because of the difference in the old survey when the house was purchased and the one that was recently conducted 3 years ago. So I thought I would bring that to you guys' attention as well.
I have a question, Mr. Baez. Was the ADU originally, the accessory dwelling unit, was that originally permitted? Or did you guys build that without a permit?
No, it wasn't permitted.
Okay. In the survey, in the site plan that you submitted today, is that the old plan that we're going by, or is this the 2018 survey?
It's 2018, right? Yes, 2018.
Okay.
Mr. Baez?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you actually build that 7 years ago, or did you purchase the property with that building still on it already?
It had that structure when it was bought, but it was modified to suit my mom's handicap needs. It was a shed, but it ended up being turned into the suite.
But it was already present when you purchased the property?
Yes.
Now, just for clarity, the 2 carports, if I read this correctly, were they built during this last COVID time without any permits or anything?
Yes, sir.
And why did that happen?
It was my parents, I believe. They when they saw everybody and most people in the neighborhood doing adjustments to the house, and they, I believe, tried to make an initial contact, but that's when most of the offices were closed or not operating.
And they just went ahead and did it?
Yes, sir.
Have you guys considered expanding and moving these carports to the rear of the property so that you wouldn't require this variance? Because I'd be willing to work with you on something that you bought a problem, I understand that. But when you create your own problem, I've got an issue with that. So is this something that you guys have thought about, maybe moving these structures, these carports to the back of the property?
They're solid, and they were inspected by an architect that assisted my parents, and so after they submitted the permits, because they were unaware that the permits and everything had to be submitted, so they've been working with an architect and making sure that because they're attached to the house, so that's why it wouldn't be as easy to move them to the back of the property.
Okay, I have a question for staff. If these structures are attached to the house, would they not be additions to and have to meet the setbacks for the principal structure and not accessory structures?
If they're attached to the house, I believe they would, yes. Yes, they
Okay.
would.
Is this something that we might need to look at a little bit different? Because now this is a different variance.
Sure. Yes, we can do that.
This is with regard to the carports, correct?
Yeah.
Speaking to, yes.
Yeah, the applicant stated that they're attached to the house. but
Correct.
It's proposed to us as accessory structures, which have different setbacks from the principal. So the principal structures can have larger setbacks, so the variance would be a little bit bigger than this, if I'm not mistaken.
I would have to double check the zoning, but I believe the side yard setbacks for two are 5 feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Any public comment from anyone who's filled out a card? Close the public comment section. Any further board discussion or questions?
Well, based on the questions that Megan just asked, you're saying that the setbacks attached, with them attached to the house and not attached house would be the same requirement of 5 feet?
Yes, that is not, hold on one second, let me get to the, so the side yard setback for the carport is supposed to be 5 feet, yes. That is for, sorry, I misspoke earlier. It's listed as an accessory structure, but we did understand that they were portions of the house from the construction that we had received from the actual survey. So that's why it's listed as a 5-foot setback. I apologize for that confusion before.
Well, the only accessory is the dwelling, the mom, not the two carports, the way I read it. Am I reading something? So the structures, two carports, okay, yes. I see where you've got it worded differently up above and worded differently down at the bottom.
Yes, I apologize for that.
So that was taken, it is your standing that that was taken into consideration that the two carports were looked at correctly as being part of the house?
Correct. That's why it was a 5-foot setback for them.
Okay.
And for the accessory dwelling unit, the 5-foot setback is associated with the standards for that type of structure.
Does
rear-
staff see this as a minimum possible variance is to my question for the respondent if, or the citizen, moving these carports to the back? Because it's in the report that they're for like an outside seating area type thing. And it doesn't,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time for me?
it's stating in the staff report that it's for like outside seating, a patio.
For the
Is-
carports?
Yeah,
I
if I'm not, maybe I
think that may
misread.
be from the applicant's narrative possibly.
Okay,
I'm not entirely sure exactly how they're using that. That would be a question for the applicant.
okay. If they had obtained permits for these, would you have recommended maybe they move it, a back porch? So that they wouldn't require these variances?
Typically, what we would look into is these types of structures are more associated within the rear property. So yes, we would have recommended them to be in the rear of the property rather than the sides.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
based on the fact that they already had them manufactured, everything was already put in and established, would the recommendation have been the same, in your opinion?
In my opinion, with them being already constructed, the side yard setbacks that we're talking about here, what they come from for the accessory structures is it's a side yard setback is the same for the accessory structure as it is for the principal structure, and it's the same for the rear. So that's why it's 5 feet either way for this type of accessory structure. So I would recommend that because they are already built, we proceed with a variance associated with the 5-foot requirement.
And not require them to tear them down and consider the back?
Staff's recommendation was for approval.
That's what I read, yeah. Okay, thank you. I have no more, Megan.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Thank you. I was going to ask you to reiterate the fact that it was a recommendation for approval by staff. Thank you for doing that right at the end. Okay, anything else discussion-wise? Chair calls for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept this applicant's request based on its meeting requirements of section 3.4.2.d.1d of the LDC. So I recommend we approve it.
Second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye,
Opposed?
Nay.
3-2.
So it looks like we had a vote of 3-2 in favor of approval. Ms. Douglas, Mr. Welty, Mr. Jandro in favor. Ms. Marshall, Mr. Hartwick against. Okay, it passes 3-2. The variance is awarded on a 3-2 vote by the board.
Other than setting the date for the next meeting, is there anything else to do, Jesse or Mr. Mosen?
No, sir, not from me.
Okay, our next meeting is tentatively scheduled for May 12th, the 21st year at 6:30 PM here, Jess, at this location.
Yes. Yes, I think all meetings are now going to be held in the council chambers. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
A definite maybe.
Staff particularly and President Owners. It was very nice. Good job. Appreciate it. Meeting's adjourned.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.